person.
Okay.
Just give the board another moment to go over it, and if they have any questions, you can begin asking questions. You can begin.
Okay. Well, once again, we were not responsible for putting the budget together, but, you know, we kind of knew all along that, you know, it was a little bit of a moving target because we didn't know exactly what it was gonna be. And we came into the project after it actually had begun. We've been on the project for about a year now. But, you look at the three columns there, the first one on the left gives you the scope of work, for instance, like the HVAC. The second column is the estimate and whether or not there is a contract in place for it. So you can see, obviously, the HVAC's $235,000, and there is a contract in place for that. The electrical, there is a contract in place for that too, for $195,000. Plumbing, we're estimating $150,000, but there is not a contract on that yet. It actually has not been put out to bid. We're a little bit early on that. Structural and roof, which is the majority of what's been going on out there now with the steel and the roofing material being put on, that is contracted out at $320,000. Carpentry and finish, which also includes the windows and doors and things like that, is only partially done. That $29,000 represents what Rayo Construction has done so far as shoring up the wood part underneath on Hall B, I believe. Fixtures, a little bit of a moving target there because you don't know exactly what it's going to be. You know, you can put really inexpensive fixtures in, or you can go high dollar. I mean, that could be a wide range there. So we kind of hit the mid point there on that point. Fire suppression estimate $120,000. Site work, which includes grading, parking lot, all things such as that, $200,000. Kitchen and hood, once again, not knowing exactly what we're going to go there. Estimate $95,000. You are partial contracted on that for a hood, of which $12,500 has already been paid. Concrete flooring is not contracted, about $75,000 is what we figure on that. Brickwork, about $70,000, of which $39,760 has already been spent. Permitting, about $15,000, miscellaneous, about $5,000. Engineering, up to this point, was estimated to be about $80,000, and most of that's already been done. Bonds, about $32,000 for each of the contractors. The 10% contractor fee that Glenn and I estimate will bring us to the end of the project was $173,700. And then there's a $125,000 contingency in there. Just, you know, you're working on an old building, you don't know what you're gonna run up with. You know, for instance, when we found the well that was under the concrete floor over there and had to be filled in. So I know there's some discussion about what this building is gonna be, and it may change, as it has changed over the years, I understand. So if you want to get the building to where it will not further degrade itself, for instance, the roof is still leaking in the main hall, we figure we can fix that. Remainder of roof materials installed will run you about $40,000. $14,000 is the carpentry work that needs to be gone underneath. The materials for both of these projects have already been paid for. And then to set the HVAC units on the building, which would then plug up the holes in the roof with the units, about $3,000 there. So you can spend another $43,612 and get it to a place where you can just sit still then. Now, it won't be dried in. Originally, we were thinking about proposing drying it in, but we don't have the site elevation quite yet. So you would have to do the site work in order to get the exact placement of the doors, and we don't really know the style of the windows and things either. So it would be fine if we stop the roof from leaking and just leave the big windows open. You know, the breeze has been blowing through there for several years anyway, and it won't hurt anything. If you flip over on the backside, I know there's been a lot of misinformation that's been put out there. I've tried to summarize what the facts really are. So the building is a 12,000 square foot building according to the plans. So the approximate cost, if you take that almost $2.2 million budget, it's about $183 a square foot to do the complete remodel. Total paid to S&S Enterprises, Glenn and my company, for the 10%, including the retainage, is $50,363.91. The town holds a retainage of 5% on everybody that's been paying so far, it's my understanding. So there's a retainage owed to us for $16,452.58. We don't hold retainage on our subcontractors. We pay them all as we go along. So we actually don't mind having retainage on us, but we don't hold it on our contractors. So the total amount directly invoiced through S&S Enterprises, as you can see, is $355,888. I plugged in just a bit of information right there at the bottom. You know, we've done this project for a 10% markup, which is really low, because we wanted to create the project for the city, you know, for the town that we live in and the area we live in. And we had the experience with other buildings that we've done, so we had actually put a low bid in at 10%, just basically, if you read that, it covers overhead. You know, we're using our own vehicles, we're paying for our own gas, we're spending time doing our own things over there too. So I just plugged that in there just so you can see that a normal markup would be somewhere in the 15 to 20% range. Any questions?
And I'd also like to point out to the board that you can see, in addition, the little drawing that you have here as well. And let me just simply say that the funds that we have attracted, in particular, the $700,000 from the Winslow project, they specialize the earmark where we should use this. And there has been a lot of thought going around what this building would be. Some we've heard some of about farmers market and all this. But we have to keep in mind that we have to spend on this project as these funds were allocated to us. The $700,000 from Winslow specifically earmarked that those funds be used to build the Civic Center portion of the Depot Hill project. The $750,000 from Mr. Price's office gives us a little bit of leeway on how we could use those funds. However, they do stipulate that it has to be used on the project itself. So we do have some discretion on it. And as you can see, council, the two main rooms is where the bulk of the work is being conducted right now. And as you can see on there, next to the Civic Center is the is an area where we have a women's, men's bathroom facilities, other areas there, foyer there, a little waiting room, a little room that sits aside there. And it's designed to supplement the Civic Center. This is where the bulk of the funds have been earmarked to be used on. And then you can see, council, the other area there, it says options for area C. See, that gives us some flexibility on how we can decide what else, if anything, we want to add to this as this project proceeds. I just wanted to clarify that, because we specifically have to use these funds for these areas. And keep in mind that if we don't use funds, and I'm sure most of you know, we don't use funds as they are earmarked for us to do in projects that we receive from the federal, state, and grants. If we fail to use those as directed, sometimes those funds will have to be returned. If any project that we work on and fail to use it as directed or don't use it at all, we have to return those funds back. And then the next time we'll try to apply for anything from those entities, from those grant agencies, from those governmental agencies. You know, it makes it extremely difficult for us, Louisburg, to get any more funds. Right now, we are, in the eyes of these agencies, these funding agencies, we have a favorable eye. They think very favorable of us as we attract these funds. So I just want to make that, just bring that out to you as well. And just open up any questions from the council now. We'll attempt to answer those. And Philip is here, Sean is here as well, as you review the sheets there, to answer any questions that you may have. So,
Mayor, I have a question. Is there a time frame in which these funds have to be used by?
No, there's not a time frame. We just have to use it.
Mr. Smith, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
section where it talks about, getting the building to a point of no further damage.
Right.
You said it's 43,612, is that the 40,472.14 and the 3,000? I
Yes.
was trying to get that figure.
Hang on, let me do the math here. Just a second. I did this document 2 or 3 different times, and it changed all along the way, so, that number could be inaccurate. So the 14,000 is for the carpentry. Roof materials is the remaining amount. Yeah, I think that number 43,612 is inaccurate. Don't know where I got that from. Those 3 numbers should add up to that.
So about
57,472, yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem, I was just making sure my math wasn't too far off.
Yeah, like I said, I changed this thing over the course of a week several times, and, something got off along the way.
Okay, so it'll take 57,000 plus to complete that, so there'll be no damage if it rains.
That's right. That would put the roof completely covered,
Right.
and that part dried in. That would put also the wood structure underneath, all of that would have been repaired, because you gotta repair there before you can put the roof on.
Right.
And then basically, you're in a clear van as far as any water damage or anything.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Smith, a few weeks ago, we met you at Depot Hill, we
Yeah.
walked around. I appreciated all the information that you gave us, so I'm gonna consider it the third room, area C, that we went through. When we had walked through that, you had stated that this would be like the, I'm gonna call it commercial kitchen areas where we have vendors that rent spaces. And that day, we had expressed to you that we were worried about money, running out of money for the project. And you had told us on that day that we're good, that we thought at that time we had about $1.4 million left to go forward with. And you had said that would complete everything, put in the kitchens, put in that area C, but now area C is vacant.
May I see that? I can see where you're pointing to.
Sure. This we had said there would be like 8 bays set up
For the commissary.
for the commissary.
Uh-huh.
But now are we just not putting anything in that area?
I don't know what your plan is to put in there.
Okay.
That's one of the options we have.
Yeah.
You remember at the last meeting, it said that we have plenty of options as this project evolves. And, that's an area, where we can use and decide how we wanna move forward on it.
What I'm
And I
saying
never
is,
said one point for
is
this.
there money allocated in here to do that on
Yes.
here? Okay.
In the kitchen and living area there. And I believe I said 1.4 million would cover it, because once again, we haven't been responsible for the budget.
Right.
Jonathan is responsible for the budget, and we were hired to see over the project with a 10% commission involved with it.
Okay.
And it's been a project that's kind of changed along the way as the money's come in, and I understand, that's a little bit of a concern, because really the direction was always forward, but sometimes it was this way, and sometimes it was this way, until we get where we're at. But that was not the scope of work that we were hired to do.
I understand that.
You can see at the top there, council, in that second room, at the very top there, corner, it says catering kitchen. So, in that second lot there.
Okay.
Mr. Smith? Yes, sir.
town of Louisburg.
Excuse me, Councilman Dickinson, can I ask you to speak a little bit louder?
Sure. This, that was, general fund for the town. There are apparently two invoices here, the last two. One was dated 4/21, the other was dated 4/28. One was.
Is that the general ledger for Sean,
Yeah.
what you gave me?
Yeah, I think that's what you probably
Okay.
have right there on page. Probably page 3. You see the last two down there on, dated 4/21.
Let's see if we're looking at the same thing.
4/22.
Okay, I don't have the date on that last one, so mine is missing, that's what's going on.
Okay, you don't have the 4/28, okay.
I've got the number, but not the date on
Okay.
it.
Did you all submit this invoice for the HVAC
Let me,
of $36,100?
no, so this project, for the most part, the contractors were paid directly by the town, with the
Okay.
exception of the structural part with Burn Development. So he billed, the town directly for that, and that was the last unit that had been on back order. I think it may even be 2 units that was paid for, 36,000. I don't have a, well, maybe that's.
Do you know when that work was done?
Sir?
Do you know when that work was done?
It actually pays for the units, it's not the work
Okay,
itself.
so there hadn't been any work done?
No.
On the HVAC part of it,
Yes,
correct?
curbs have been.
Curbs installed, yeah.
Do you know when that was done?
That was probably, before Christmas.
Okay.
That's been
All
all
right.
right.
And then the one that you don't have that was submitted on 4/28 for $77,682.
Actually, that was what was paid after the retainage was taken out, it was actually 81,771. I've got a copy of it.
81,000,
That's right.
and that was work that was done, when?
So I'll run down the list here, so $10,672 of it was the special order supplies that were ordered through Rustic Building Supply. And normally the town would pay that directly too, but when you pause the project, we took it upon ourselves not to hold Rustic up, so I went ahead and paid Rustic myself.
And see, as invoices age, you know, we don't want it to, have outstanding invoices for services or products that have been given to us. And keep in mind, none of this, there has not been any major work, since the pause, with the exception of putting in those steel beams there, to reset in the concrete. That was the only work that was concluded during the pause. However, that was approved prior to the pause. See, these guys had laid the, concrete for these steel girders, and during our tour, they had indicated to us, now correct me if I'm wrong, that this had to set. These steel columns the concrete has to be set, and then at a later time, when it's firm enough, these beams are then inserted into that concrete. Am I correct?
Well, I think the day we were there, the holes had been done, and the concrete wasn't there, but the steel had been ordered. And if you remember, we had a temporary beam holding up that corner that is faces, closest to the river, right there at the church. And so that was a temporary beam that was just in place until the steel did come in. Yes, all that had been ordered prior to that. And it was a little bit of a safety factor, because once again, it was one beam holding it up there, and it had been ordered. We had to pay the guy, we've got a contract with him. But you want me to continue down that invoice, Bob?
If you don't mind, give me that other figure, if you would, 81,000, you said
81,771.50, yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The, Sean should have it, we sent copies of everything we do to him.
Sean's trying to get by.
So that 10,672, that's Rustic Building Supply. Burn Development, 19,739 was the part I've got is here. That was part of his contract for putting that structural seal in Hall A, the big hall there. And then he also, if you remember that day we did the tour, there were the roofing materials that had been ordered. And keeping in mind too, it's been tough getting a lot of things, so they went ahead and put our order in and got it at the original price. That's been sitting on the building, and they asked for half the payment of that, so that's what that $40,472.
Okay.
The other half is what's on that sheet that I gave you a while ago to install and finish that. I've got a copy right here if you wanna see it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
For your explanation.
And that was the last invoice that we had submitted.
Any other questions, council? As you study this, we want to make sure that all of your questions and your concerns are addressed. And any questions related to Sean perhaps could answer some of them that you may have as well. Yeah.
Mr. Smith, I have a question. I know, zero about HVAC.
Yeah.
But, I'm not even allowed to touch the thermostat at home. So my question is, when we put the HVAC on the building, and I saw it in that middle room, how we supported the roof to hold it and house it and whatnot. Is there like one HVAC, does it go by the size, or does it depend on the use of the room?
Oh, yeah, how many units on there?
I think it's 5 or 6 different units up there. That whole building is set on that one section is designed to hold all the weight of the new stuff. That roof was torn off and redesigned. All the units for the whole building set in the center section. But it's 6, I think it's 6 units that set up.
I believe it is.
So, irregardless of what the purpose or the use of the building is, that HVAC is gonna work, right?
Correct, yeah.
Unless you put in something that creates a lot of heat or cooling, something, it would have to be something strange for it not to work.
Okay. Just wanna make sure.
Got one more question.
Yes, sir.
Tell me again what you said you all found once you got in the building, you had to cover it up.
So when we started taking the concrete flooring out, part of it, had been there so long, it was hollow under, it was 5 feet below where the concrete was, so the concrete was just hovering above, air basically. And what we found, what looked to be an old well or something there that had been probably thrown, things that would rust away or, just go away, and the thing had just fallen down away from it. So all that, with the help of the town employees, they brought gravel in and firmed it up.
Do you environmentally have to do a study before you start a project like this?
No,
Not to my knowledge.
not unless it's been a fuel station or something that never been there. So, it's nothing to warn it.
There are no underground tanks or anything like that.
Not that we've seen, no. But the building's been there for over 100 years, about anything could have happened over the course of time. But we haven't seen any problem like that. And I think, Bobby, what you're referring to is probably when you're getting something financed, they have to go in and do an environmental study, but, I don't know about government projects and how they work.
Mr. Slater, can I refer to you? Do you know anything about that, sir?
I know that typically, and Mr. Swan is right, where you have environmentally sensitive land uses, dry cleaners, petroleum, gas stations, whatnot, and you're dealing with something where you're trying to redevelop something, you usually do a phase 1 brownfields study assessment. And in fact, the town has engaged a consultant right now to do those things all within the Depot Hill area. It was my understanding, and this is strictly hearsay, because I wasn't involved with the project, but when that question was posed to Mr. Franklin, when I was initially hired, he indicated that there had been nothing like that on site where the building is. There are questions about the larger area, some of which the town owns, but not the building site itself.
aren't you referring to, the land across the street?
Yes, ma'am, that-
Donated, that was the former, dry cleaner?
Yes, ma'am, that is one location of
Yeah, that's
this.
one of the greenfield.
Correct.
Another thing that we found also, that initially the engineer wasn't gonna do is that back wall that had to be totally torn down and reconstructed. There was old cottonwood tree that had been growing in there forever, and it had just split it open and deteriorated. And it had, leaning over, 8 inches or so?
7, yeah.
7, yeah. And so we had the engineer come back out and look at that and fix that part of it as well.
And let me just clarify something. The uses of engineers, actually, I understand, in any project, highways, bridges, or any large construction, the primary responsibility is for the contractors and the builders to do this. Now, if during this process, they encounter something unusual, isn't that when they would normally bring in, get the opinion of an engineer, or usually how to resolve this issue like this? It's not like an engineer is looking over your guy's shoulder every day.
No, he has gone out over and looked over the site and made his determination as best he could do. And then, once we got into it, it was up to us to say, okay, well, you missed this, or this needs to be done differently because we found, for instance, the well under the, underneath the concrete, or things like that.
And the tree.
And the tree, yeah.
Do we need an engineering service to tell us how to get rid of that tree?
We got rid of it.
So, Mr. Smith, the, fees that you have listed here, some of these have been paid already,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, in total, some of the HVAC has already been paid for, so on and so forth.
Correct.
So, I appreciate the fact that the town moved forward on Depot Hill. I think it's very important to the community, and I very much want Depot Hill to succeed. My hiccup is the purpose, and that there weren't any studies done on the fact that it's gonna be a convention center, the commercial kitchens and whatnot. So, I know that the day that we were there, you guys brought plans that we had drawn up, with the commissary and the commercial kitchen, and for it to be an event space.
Right.
What happens if the council decides, well, we don't necessarily think that that's the best interest of the town to serve the community? So.
From what viewpoint, I can't answer it as to what it will
Well,
do with the branch.
what if we, don't want the commercial or the commissary?
Right.
Then how does that change things for y'all? Does that set you back,
I don't think it
or?
really changes anything for us.
It doesn't change
All we do
anything
is
for the.
what you tell us to do.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything for the contractors themselves. However, if there's any change, it is how the funding that was initially granted to us to be used. Now, the commercial kitchen, or the commissary, Sean, I think we had some funds that were designated for.
We do. We have funds designated from the Tobacco Trust Fund for $125,000, specifically for commissary, commercial kitchen. If we do not use that, the funds have to be returned. And we haven't drawn the funds down, so they would stay put if we did not do that.
Could we use them in another location
No.
to do the same purpose?
That I don't know.
If the location is in Depot Hill, yes, but not away from the Depot Hill project.
That's what we asked for, asked for the money for was for the Depot Hill, because we wanted to, it's my understanding, that we wanted to see that it would try to pay for itself in as far as its usage, you know, and the commercial kitchen certainly seemed the venue to do that because it would be using, I think it specified local produce, things produced in Franklin County, and it would thus help the, agricultural interests in Franklin County. And it would also provide, income, you know, to warrant having.
And as I've indicated earlier, see, there are other studies, that has shown us how important this building would be for us and, how it could attract other businesses. They have seen this, they have did long-term studies, I'm talking about, specifically, how this could be used in a positive way for the Louisburg 2030 plan. How electric cities have at least had a portion on how it could be used to attract other businesses as well. So this project could be a great asset for Louisburg, not a liability, an asset.
Mayor, I've got a question for you. If we spend the money that we have left on this project, and we get to the end of the money, and we run out of money and the project's not done,
That is why, as I included in this little drawing here, specifically, there is enough funds available to do what we've illustrated here. In these two big rooms here. The others, that's why we want to consider bringing it up to a dry form, for the remaining parts of the building. So therefore, we have enough funding. If we do what these funds are allocated for us to do for these two large rooms here, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. There won't be we won't run short of any funding once we keep these two things in mind. That's why I included that in there, to show you, to give you some idea on specifically where these funds will be used.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I didn't see, were you also pointing to area D also?
No.
Okay.
Only
Area
area
A and C?
A and B.
A and B, A and B, okay.
A and B. And the other areas, that again gives us the flexibility as we set this up and bring it to this dry state with these two rooms operating. See, that is the initial phase that we want to get to. And other, as we go along, then, we probably could attract other funding. Businesses will come and look at it as well. And,
would it not be a benefit to the town since we have that drawing that Philip had drawn up? To have developers come and talk to us and tell us what would be good ideas for this building?
Sure, sure, that gives us the flexibility to do that, right, Philip?
Certainly.
Once we get to this state, yes. We
I
have.
mean, do we have to get into that state, or can we do it now at the state that it's in?
No.
Why not?
Because the businesses that come, they want to see a finished product. A finished to the extent that we can do it. And it also will attract other things as well. This Civic Center banquet, businesses could come and perhaps they may utilize this. There's a similar space in Youngsville that is used for banquets, that is used for weddings, all of that. That is a form of income that the town could use. And school proms and other family gatherings, and civic gatherings as well as businesses. And it seems to me when you have somewhat of a clear project that has some facial values, clean windows, that's more attractive, in my opinion, than the way the building is set up there now. And that helps us.
So Mayor, you said that we're gonna focus on section A and B, so that means that for now, we're gonna set aside C, correct?
We'll bring C up to, a part where it could be dried in.
Okay, but then that would have been the commissary, so therefore we lose that grant for that, correct?
No, we'll use it to the extent to, get it in the dry state and get it up where the leach look halfway percent.
But don't we lose that grant if we don't,
That's
Yeah, grants in
the B is for the commissary?
it, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was.
Could
for
you
C.
amplify that,
Commissary.
Sean has information as well.
C would be what the commissary would do.
Right, that's what I thought. So C is where the commissary would have gone, where we would have used that grant purpose, I thought.
So
And that
according-
one, the roof has been reinforced and the new roof is on.
On C?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you're saying
Let
dried
me
in,
make
you're
sure.
talking about it would be dried in A, B, this part right here.
Yeah.
That's the 12,000 square feet?
That's correct.
Okay.
So that was gonna be your commissary, and that now has been reinforced, the roof is on, it's got a foot, it's safe right now. This was your commercial kitchen along the back, this is where most of the money is spent here. It's got a roof on it, it's been reinforced, but it doesn't have any, still holes where air conditioning is gonna sit. The part that needs to be done is this area A, and I will also, I think it's important to point out on that area A, those three numbers I've got there that don't add up, Mark, that should be 57,472. Out of those three numbers, the only one you're not already in a contract with is the 14,000. It's just so happened the timing was such, I didn't commit to him because you wanted to pause things. But you are really committed to the 40,472, of which you just paid half on the last invoice. And you are committed on the 3,000 as well, those you do have contracts on. So in my mind, it doesn't make sense not to spend the extra 14,000 and have the roof on, and it's structurally, it's complete, it's not gonna rain through the roof, but it's not dried in because you don't have windows and doors in. And then you can certainly determine which direction you wanna go with that. That's just my view from it. I mean, you're committed to everything already in a contract other than the 14,000.
It seems to me that is the least we should do, because I think the Depot Hill is key to a lot of the development in that area. The diagram that Mr. Slater has in his office of possible future homes and businesses in that Depot Hill area, would have that Depot Hill as a linchpin, and, I think we need to get it to, we need to show now is the time for us to show our commitment to this project in this area. And likewise to the downtown area and linking both the north side of town and the south side of town. We need to show that we're committed to do this, for future development anywhere in the town. That it's just, if we flag on this, it makes you question whether we're ready to do anything.
And businesses, other entities that are looking at Louisburg will see, well, why should we commit when it doesn't look like that they are committing themselves as well? When it doesn't look like that they want to take the bold step to do it. So we have to commit ourselves, I believe. I think we have to take the stand to say, this is done. We're gonna do this. Other cities, other towns, and especially businesses as we grow, because, you know, this is one of the largest projects that we are undertaking thus far. If it seems that we are dragging our feet on it, that we are not committed, in the long run, it has a negative downturn for the town of Louisburg. That's what, so I urge the council to take this bold step to show the state of North Carolina, show other towns and municipalities that we have the gumption to take this bold step to move our town to the future. That's what I think we should do. And it would, I don't think we'll regret it. We will not regret this. And let me digress just briefly. I remember a couple of years ago, Christmas lights, when we were dealing with Christmas lights for the town. At one point, Christmas lights only went down to the river bridge. When we took a little simple step to say, let's move the Christmas lights up South Main Street, up the other part of the town. Then, when Christmas came, and as you drove down North Main Street, and you could see those Christmas lights all the way across town, that created a good feeling of goodwill to everybody.
Not everyone, Mayor, they don't go all the way up to North Main Street.
When you come down North Main Street,
No, sir.
when you come down North Main Street as you pass the college, going downtown.
Past the college, how about the
Going-
other end of
Well,
North
we
Main
can,
Street?
hey, it's just a thing, if we wanna commit ourselves to doing it, we can do it.
I understand that, I'm
So-
just saying, inclusion is,
Now, I can reject something.
yeah, Sean has paid.
Look, Emma has something.
My experience with us buying Christmas lights is that we have usually tried to buy them from Moscow in the summer when they were on sale cheaper. And we've also been given some by other larger municipalities that were even upgrading and had much higher budgets. And so I think this is an instance that we're working our way to. We're still a small town of 3,500 people. And so we got to take things sort of a step at a time, which is, I think, kind of folds back into where we are with Depot Hill, in that we have sort of taken it a step at a time. And so that's, for what it's worth, that's a little bit Christmas lights, in my opinion, on how we got here.
And it created a good feeling with the citizens. Just simply, just the scenery change. See, you can't measure necessarily a feeling, but I felt good about it. And I'm sure other citizens felt good about it too, you see. So that's the point that I was making.
We gonna learn to make you feel good about it.
Well, Jason, I've asked for 14 years, so it's
Nobody's
okay.
heard you ask publicly until tonight. But anyway,
Maybe if I could, I'd like to ask Mr. Smith something about
Yes, sir.
Depot Hill. Do you by chance know the square footage of area D?
We've got the map here,
It's
the plan,
4,000.
pull it out.
4,000.
Not that you have to.
No, that's fine.
I think it's almost like 2 and 2 or something like that.
That's a section that's in really bad shape.
So, is it my understanding that we can do area A, B, and C for roughly over $2 million?
Correct.
So if we do these areas, say we finish the event center and we get section B done, is there money allocated? Where are these people parking?
Well, see, there will be some parking out front,
This hall's supposed to hold what, 375 people?
yeah, and there's I think there was a plan for a pathway to come up off of Seaboard Street. Are you familiar with anything like that, Philip?
No, sir, I've never seen a site plan for the building.
There was not a site plan.
Should, and that's another question I think I may have asked earlier, was should a site plan been done initially?
Normally,
Before this started, before the whole thing started?
Normally you would know the full direction the project is going.
Correct.
And you would deliver us a set of plans that fill this for us.
Right.
This project's way different than that, because it's kind of come together as the money has come in. And John was not here, and he did the best he could with what he had. But, you know, it was just kind of, let's figure it out as we go kind of deal. And then the commissary came up at the end, because I think some money became available for it or something. He really brought, you know, if you remember what the building looked at in the beginning, there was nothing there. Just a falling in building, so he did the best he could with what he had. But yeah, answer to your question, Bob, normally you would have all that done beforehand.
I think you have to designate what the building is designed for. Like, if that was if where the commissary was another meeting hall, then you would have to have more. You can't design a parking place if you don't know what the building is how many people it holds.
If we raised a concern about the parking, and we had talked about possibility of the property at the bottom of the hill there, I think David Waterlay on that being purchased and becoming a parking lot, if we needed overflow for parking. But it was just discussions, as has been along the way with all of this.
Sean, we skipped you earlier.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
Because we were talking about areas A, B, and C. My understanding is, Keith, area C is where the commissary kitchen was supposed to
No,
be?
area C is commissary. Area D, actually, we had deemed it better just tear it down and throw it away.
Because that's not what I've got from John. John's got commissary in B, and C was endless options. Now, I don't know, but that's what I have from John Franklin, not John Barlow, but John Franklin.
It
So
says
I-
table in the kitchen on this diagram.
That was for B, and he told me that's where the commissary was going to be, and that's what the 125 would be used for. So if, my question or my clarity was, if we're using B and we're gonna put the commissary kitchen, the money should be able to be used for that. I think that's sort of where you were going, so I think that's.
Okay, I just wanna make sure
Okay.
that.
That's the first time I'd seen that drawing, so they may have them switched on there.
Okay,
I don't know where that came
but,
from.
so area C though is not for,
Well, see, it sounds like to me you have two sets of drawings. Here the contractor hasn't even seen the set of drawings that we're talking about.
Well, this is for illustration purposes only.
Right, that's the first I've seen that.
This is just simply for illustration purposes only, to give you some idea of how we hope to do it. That's
The
all.
commercial kitchen and the commissary is in two different sections, that's not the same. The commissary is just, with sinks and a cooler. The commercial kitchen is in the center main section.
It's a full-blown kitchen with a hood system and everything in it, whereas the commissary is just a place for, like a food
Like
truck
the
to prep food.
stations,
Yeah.
Because they're gonna put it on the
Prep
truck
station.
and cook it if you,
Right.
think about it.
When we did the walkthrough a couple months ago, we did include section C, correct? Was that the
That's
kitchen
what
and then next to it was a
section
one
C does
kitchen?
is the commissary, right?
Yeah,
And then section A, of course, was the main hall.
Main hall, yeah.
I remember distinctively walking through
That's correct.
Yeah.
three sections, and then on here, we're scrapping one section.
That, not of those, it's four sections there.
Yeah. Most of the time, the fourth section, it hasn't been shown because there's nothing gonna be done there.
Mr. Medlin, I have a question. This project was initially set up as a capital project, is that correct?
that's good.
And that project has a limit of seven.
$749,000.
Okay, so we're approaching that.
And at your May meeting, you will have an addendum to your capital project, amending it to move it to 2.2 million, if that's what we go through.
So technically, can we go over the 749 point until we amend that project?
We would be out of compliance for maybe a week. Technically, the state would like us to be in compliance and ask for that information to be, submitted in advance. And so in the May, we actually had, put it on the March agenda and pulled it off because we had several things going on, so, it will be on the May agenda.
I'm trying to stay off that audit list.
So- But overall, as long as we have it done before June 30th, we're good.
And currently today, how much fund balance do we have in our account for Depot Hill? today?
For Depot Hill, this entire project right now is in our fund balance. As far as like the money that we've gotten 1.15 million.
Yeah.
So any funds that we have not received and we continue working will basically come from fund balance until we receive the funds.
And then we reimburse that?
Yes.
So, we have not received the price money as of yet,
No.
or the gold leaf, so is there a dollar figure that we readily have available right now?
We actually have we had, 1.15 million received, and we had spent 700, so that would be about 400,000, maybe 443,000 is what we have left to spend before we go on.
Remaining, 440. And do we have a time frame on when we may get the other monies?
The 125 from Tobacco Trust, we have to request that. So if we move forward with the commissary kitchen, we'll have to show that we're doing that to get the funds. The 750, Mayor, I think I understood Price is in the process of work.
Yeah, that's going through a series of processes, in order for it to be released. It has been approved, and, as soon as it goes through that process, these funds will be released to the town. Any other questions from the council?
I have a comment. I think that with our turnout today, we have a vested interest in the public. I'd like to hear from the public if they have anything to say before we make any decisions. It's their tax money that we're spending.
Well, that's gonna be,
We need to make that motion. I make a motion that,
no, you can't make a motion to that. There is a part in here where we have council comments, and then I will allow a few public comments in this section during council comments as well. Okay. Just, a point of order that was just understood there, because of rules, which was brought to me. Public comments will not be allowed here at this section at this time. However, we can do it in the next open council meeting. Now, this is a closed, special meeting. All of the public it's not here. And,
It was announced, I mean, it was posted.
You can't change the agenda when it's ready.
I spoke to someone from the Institute of Government, and they said that public comment is allowed, or is expected at all regular meetings, and that public comment could be allowed, but was not required at special meetings. So, we can, how would you read that, Mr. Slater and Mr. Barlow? What would your interpretations be?
It's my understanding that a special call meeting can only be for the purpose of the special call meeting, but it does not preclude the admission of public comment. Is that your take?
I've never had that interpretation. So it's my understanding that you only can discuss what you advertise for. There may be people who didn't come because they didn't see a public comment period on the agenda. I could be wrong on that. The town attorney.
Yeah, neither am I. So,
If the board would like to have public comment, I probably would, if you do it tonight, I would also do it at your next regular meeting, so that it's on that agenda as well. People would have
It should be on the agenda for the next regular meeting.
It has to be put it on the next agenda, but it's not on the agenda tonight. So
and this, see, I don't think, I hope we won't have to delay this thing, and the purpose of this meeting is for us to come together so we can decide whether we're gonna move forward on this project. We should not want to delay it again, waiting for, dragging our feet out again, We're gonna have to make a decision soon. And the purpose of this meeting, as I understood, for the reason for calling it, is to, after we have this discussion, after you ask your questions, council, and after the contractors put forth their, information as it relates to this, we should decide to move forward or whatever, but a decision should be made. We shouldn't be dragging this thing out. We need to make a decision.
I don't think we should drag it out.
And we need to do
Are we allowing public comments or not?
it. No, I don't think we should allow public comments on this at this point.
Town attorney present to make that call? Is the town attorney present to make that call?
No, he's not.
Should be.
And being that he's not here, I want to stick close to the rules as set forth in special call.
I would encourage public comment without the town attorney. With the town attorney not being present, I would recommend public comment. Or maybe a town council vote.
Who are you, Matthew?
I'm Dustin Moore.
Okay. I mean, what do you base yours on, do you base that as on being a citizen?
I do, yes.
Okay. If you got your address, but this
he
isn't
can
a
be
public
included.
hearing.
Mr. Moore, what's your address?
348 Cook Road.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I would allow a few public comments. Now, I'm not gonna allow this thing to get, out of hand in which somebody else say something and then someone else say all that. This is gonna be a limited time thing for public comment. And public comment, 1 minute. 1 minute for anyone who wants to make a public comment. And after that minute, then if you have anything else, we'll hold it open to the next meeting. Because I'm not gonna allow this to go on and on, with someone who may have, something else to say about it. But we need to make a decision, board, council, when we end this meeting, of what we're going to do. This Depot Hill project moving forward. All right, so at this time, are there any public comments? And remember to keep your comments to 1 minute. Does anyone have a public comment?
I would like to make a public comment. My name is Linda Keith. I'm at 122 Grant Street in Louisburg. This project started 8 years ago when the current Mayor Purnell was here, and I was here as well. We ran into some problems with the grant money. Now the grant, everybody up there except you, and you were present and agreed to go forward with the Depot Hill project. Now all of a sudden it's so transparent that you don't want this Depot Hill project to go forward. For the betterment of Louisburg Township, it is so obvious, and we can't keep prolonging anything. And just like he said about the Christmas lights, every time something was done on the north side of town, nothing was ever said. This is in the center of downtown south side of Louisburg, and it's a big issue. And I knew when they put that big picture up to say this is what it's gonna look like, I knew it was gonna be a problem. Because Louisburg would try not to get to the point where everything is inclusive. But progress is gonna go forth whether you like it or not, okay?
Anyone else?
I'd love to, if I can.
Okay.
So, I
Your
live
name,
at
your name.
305 Spring Street.
Your name, please?
Corey Thornton.
Okay.
I live at 305 Spring Street, here in town. You let me know when my 60 seconds starts.
I will. Right now.
All right. So there's a couple things I heard tonight that I think are tangible things that the council can grab a hold of and then move forward with. Right now, I feel like I'm caught between mom and dad's argument, and everybody seems a little tense. But I've met with all the council members, and they have convinced me that there's nothing more they want than to see that side of the bridge and multiple of the success that has always kind of been on the other side of the bridge. So I firmly believe that across the council members. One, I heard your contractors tonight say that they don't know what the clear use is of the building. Like, that's something that they have to be equipped with to do the project and finish the project well. That's something that needs to be determined. How the business is gonna function, or how the building's gonna function as a business, has to be determined before you can finish the site plan, before you can finish figuring out the mechanical and the finishes, like what light fixtures go in there, what you mentioned, that has to do with what the business is gonna be that makes that viable for the town in terms of either value to the town or revenue to the town, either of those things. So there's ways to get at that. There's studies that can be done that can help with that. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Felix Allen, 408 North Main Street.
I see a problem, and I know what you're talking about.
I heard you say we were bumping up against a maximum budget amount, yet I did not understand that we have a detailed site plan in place. And that cost, which would include the parking for that facility, is an integral part and could be significant considering the site itself. It's rather strange design and the contamination site behind.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Christine, MD, 310 North Main Street. Corey brought up a good point. He said he spoke to all of you. You said you guys didn't want anything more than making sure that this Depot Hill project goes forward, so what's stopping you? Make a decision. Make it happen. Do something. Make a decision.
All right, anyone else? All right, now we'll move to council comments. Anyone on the council have something to say?
Mayor, with all the growing things that the town's gonna be going through as far as for office space for the town, the government itself, I wonder if it could be considered that Depot Hill be made into town hall?
Well, as we say, we have an option. That option,
When you go putting a commissary kitchen in there, what does the town hall need a commissary kitchen for?
well, we have various options. So therefore, we can study these options. We can take these options under advisement and move forward on it. See, that's an idea, and then perhaps maybe another idea may come about as well. So that's the flexibility that we have with this. You see, so that's a good thing. The flexibility that we have. Any other council comments?
Mayor, I think that we should go forward and at very least, take it through this $57,472 and close it in well. And wait and get these monies in, because I think it is an indication of whether we are committed toward moving forward. with the situation, of our future at stake. And, with the changes that will be coming to the town. I feel like that, Mr. Swanson and Mr. Smith, had experience, they were local people, they have had knowledge of working with the former, site, the H.C. Taylor, building, and have done a wonderful job on adapting it and saving it. We talk about Louisburg as being the village on the tar, and I think that this can be a key to building it, and I think we should, I would like to, in the form of a motion, when it is appropriate, move that we at least get this $57,472 worth of work done to secure the building and, at least get to this part, and if we can see, going forward with the commissary kitchen and the other things that will all come together from there. So that is, I would like to make that a motion when it's appropriate. The other people may have comments right now, so I will reserve that.
Okay, so let me understand. So just do that limited work, or just to resume work?
Well, to resume work on it until the building is totally secure. And then reassess and, proceed on as the money becomes available for us to proceed with this if our contractors will agree with that.
Now, that doesn't make it totally secure, that doesn't close it in, does it, right? Well,
No.
that doesn't.
No windows in, no windows.
So it's not dried in.
Right,
It's-
basically it keeps the rain from damaging anything else.
That's all.
Right now it's raining inside Hall A whenever it does.
Could I ask how much it would be to, close it in?
But there again, depends on what kind of windows, doors, the site plan would tell us at what level to put the concrete. And, we can figure it out ourselves, but we don't wanna put ourselves in line because that's not our job. We need to have an engineer do that. So I would fully recommend doing just this part here, and that buys you as much time as you need at that point. And then you can determine, what do you want your doors to look like, or your windows and things like that.
That sounds sensible to me.
Do you have a comment?
No, it just seems like
I'll recognize him. I'll recognize.
I didn't want to speak in front of the mayor, that's all.
I'll recognize.
Okay, well, I'll go next then. To some of the comments, I want this to succeed more than anyone else. I also don't want there to be a misstep. And my goal for Depot Hill is something for the entire community. Where my hangup is there was no study done to tell us to do the convention hall. I was worried about the money, the environmental studies being done, the site plan obviously needs to be done considering what the purpose of the building is. This council has never sat down and had a conversation regarding what we think is the best purpose of these buildings. There's not been that opportunity. We've been told that these are the plans, but there's nothing that tells us that those are workable and necessary and needed in our community. There's a lot of needs in our community, in every part of our community. So my caution comes from, I wanna do the right thing so that every single person in our community can benefit from what we do with Depot Hill. So that's where I'm at. If I would like nothing more than a developer or someone to come in with those studies and plans and show us all, here's an idea that might work. You have a great location, a really neat building, you've come a long way on it, but wouldn't it be great for all of us to see what it could be, and all of us take that into consideration, rather than all of us pushing behind, say, an event center, and nobody rents it? Then what do we have? I don't want there to be a misstep, so that's where my caution comes from.
I understand your concern. However, so you have a different idea on what this should be. If that idea deviates from where the funding has already been approved for the use of, and then we take some more time to do another study to change what, tell me a town or city that is moving forward do not have a facility where the public can, which we don't have. See, if we change this, then we run the risk of, because, you know, some, you don't necessarily like the way it's laid out, or don't like necessarily the way the monies that have come to us have been earmarked for, then we run the risk of sending those funds back. See, let's do what these funds are allocated for. We have the funding. We have the space laid out. Let's do it. Then these questions, because see, what we're sure that we have funding. We're sure of that the funding is earmarked for a specific portion of this project. We know this. What we don't know is what if we change it or do this, or try to be cautious about what will happen, may happen in the future. But what we know can happen is that we can build this, we can use these funds to make this thing work, and then have it there, and then anybody who's never visited Louisburg can come and see this. Look what you've started, look what you've done. You see, and you know, I would rather err on the side of doing it right and good, as opposed to not doing anything right now, waiting to be absolutely sure about something. See, we don't know what the future may hold, but we do know that we can control our future to the extent that we can build this building or complete this project. This is what we know we can do. We have the funds controlled to do that. I mean, I don't know of any other project where you have funds to do something. When you're building a house, and everything, your construction loan has been approved, and then your mortgage has been approved. You know, and then it's, man, I don't know that. I don't know if I want to go along with it. You know, see, that's. I don't want our town to have that attitude, and people can easily see that. An outside company, an outside person can easily see that. So, you know, council, let's ask ourselves, let's move quickly. All of us have agreed that we want to do this. So let's do it. Council member.
I was just gonna make an observation in that I've seen things implied about town council on social media. And I've been involved with the council for all these years, and I've been involved with most of you for all of this time. And I think we all have very good intentions and the best of intentions, and we've moved forward as we've been able to. Ms. Stein, you just got on board and were elected in October. And so I want you to understand that all of us have been trying to deal with this with integrity. I think the town administrator did, I think our contractors have, I think everybody involved with the process has tried to be above board. And I hope we can all pull together and move forward to get this to eventually a place that we can all be proud of. And, I hope that we will see that, and that's why I would like to see us at least get it to a fairly, safe of a state until we can all take in consideration what's coming up, because I think we all have good intentions, and none of us would be taking our time to serve if we did. And that's all, and that's what the public expects of us, so.
I just want to see, what we started, finished. And what I'm saying finished, I'm talking about A and area B. Those are the two that we know we have the money for, that we can do now. Area C is an option that we don't know what to do with yet. Mr. Winslow, he want a civic center. I think we need to give him that civic center. I don't care if nobody ever go inside that civic center. But we need to have that civic center. We will have a free civic center that the town of Louisburg did not have to pay for. So what's the problem with that? Okay, and who said anything about the rental fee? How much the rental fee would be? Who can rent the place? You may have something open for just the young people. You might have something open for all senior citizens to come up there. We have a lot of things in Louisburg where we don't have the space for all these people to go to at one time. So this is what this is for. And I just want us to see us go through with that. Like I said, it was $57 to complete those two things and make sure that then we go along with the windows after we get that done. But I'm ready for them to start back to work.
I make a motion that we make it the new town hall for Louisburg.
I'll
Just
second
cut to the
that.
chase. Who cares what it costs? It doesn't matter. Haven't you heard that?
Look,
It's free, it's free.
cost, look, we cannot, Councilman Clancy, we can't make it a town hall over and above of what has always, the funds have been stipulated for. And cost, look, let's be clear about cost, okay? We have the cost to do this. Now, and I know that the town have incurred costs, that, you know, some of us haven't really asked about, you know, which is another time. But we have the funds to do what we do. All of us have said that we want to see this done. All we have to do is just, let's get it done. And then we can just open it up. Then we can have all the options we want to. The town hall, once we do this, and this space here, you know, who knows what the options will be? Who knows how we could use this as a town hall? But the motion of just simply having it as a town hall, I don't think that's the right motion at this. That's my opinion. I don't think that's the right motion to do. I think if we're gonna make a motion, let's make a motion in line with what the funding has granted us to do. That's where I think a motion should be made.
I would like to make my original motion, if it's at this time can be made, and I'm serious about it, that we bring the, Depot Hill project to the point that our contractors, S&S, said would be a good point to pause it at, which would take us through to the bottom of this first page with setting the HVAC units and do that remaining work, reinforce Hall A roof, the remainder of the roofing materials to be installed for $57,472. And then, we will discuss it further from later.
Okay, I appreciate that, Councilman Stewart. However, there was a motion. That was a second. No, just a moment. That was a motion made by Councilman Clancy to make it a town hall, and seconded by, Silkenstein. All in favor of such a motion, let it be known by the raising of your hands.
In favor of it?
Yeah. All opposed? Okay. Now, can I get a motion to move forward with this, Councilman
I
Stewart's motion?
repeat my motion from before, of taking it to the, position, that was our contractors had recommended would be a good pause spot until we can, reassess that, at which point they tell us when that's completed, and, hopefully we can move forward, but I would say to the point of the 57, of completing a safe pause spot. Is that sufficiently stated, Mr. Slater?
I'm gonna defer to the interim town administrator, Madam Councilwoman.
That motion.
Okay, thank you.
You've heard the motion, could do the second.
Is that for just those 3 items listed on the pause point?
For the amended number of 57,600.
Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor, let it be known again by the raising of your hand. All opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, Jesus.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that the council be open to having a developer institute a site plan and come to us with some proposals and options of what would be the best uses and purposes of the grant monies in which we have to go forward with projects so that it is the best thing for our community.
Are you referring to the Depot Hill project?
Yes, sir.
Well, the grants that have already been allocated to how they're going to be used.
And allocated, yes, sir, but they could come to us and tell us how those grant monies can be used to finish Depot Hill and purposes for the hall, so that we get the best purpose for our community.
You've heard the motion, you give a second. Is there a second for that?
I don't know what she's saying.
So, I would like for a developer to come to the town council, to one of our town council meetings, and develop a site plan in which needs to be done, even according to S&S contractors, a site plan, and help us deem what the best purpose of the site would be with the grant monies that we have.
Does that include paying for such?
I don't
I mean,
know.
if you're gonna ask somebody to develop something.
Not to develop, but to do the plan.
And you got to pay, so you got to allocate some money to pay for it.
Mr. Slater?
Yeah.
I would recommend, let me caution you.
Yes.
Whenever there's anyone in the audience that has something to say, I will acknowledge.
I didn't say
Okay. Mr. Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To speak to Councilmember Stein's point, when you invite someone to make a proposal regarding the project, regardless of what it is, fixing a roof, whatever, you would normally issue what's called a request for proposals, so that you would invite and you would be advertised, and you would invite anyone who meets the qualifications to submit whatever scope of work that you choose. In this case, what you described. And then the town would take those proposals, rank them, and score them, and then bring that forward to council to decide whether to accept and to determine which of the proposals that they wanted to move forward with. And it's entirely possible that you may not receive anything. You may not receive anyone to your request, to your RFP. But that is the traditional way to do what you are suggesting, and they would put in their proposal a budget. In other words, how much is it gonna cost for us to do what you want us to do? And then you would make a decision to allocate that money in the budget for that purpose, and then move forward with an award.
Mr. Slater, would it be worded better as a study done instead of a proposal?
Yep, you could do that. You could do it however you wanted to. You could do an RFP for a feasibility study. You could do an RFP for, whatever scope of work you wanted done. That's just simply as I said, the traditional way of handling what you're asking for.
Thank you. So that's my motion.
I have a question with that motion, on that motion. Where's the funding coming from for it? Where's the money gonna come from?
I would assume.
I'm not feeling it.
Mayor, can I add?
Sure.
In your project
Yes.
budget, in your project budget prepared by Sean, you have a line item called contingency. Those are funds that the town may have to contribute in the event that any of the other project line items ran over. So if you did want to hire an architect to design your site plan, that's where and the town didn't have any grant funds to cover that, that's where that project could come from, to stay within that $2.2 million you have already allocated.
Thank you.
Your motion,
I second her motion.
okay, been moved and properly second. All in favor, again, let it be known by raising your hand. All opposed? Okay, so there will be a study. Now, that study, are we talking about this study being on Depot Hill? Or for other future, grants?
Yes, sir. Regarding the process in which we're currently involved in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what we're about.
The money is already, so look, okay, the motion has passed, but I just want to, I am not clear on, when we have the monies already there, then we're gonna call for a study to give us some idea of how we should use the monies when the monies have already been approved. I mean, am I
doing that.
I just wanna get it clear in my mind.
Do you want us to answer that question?
This, look,
Can we open up the public comments again, please?
no, I'm talking. We could, talk, but that's where we are. And mind you, council, we are putting our funding at risk.
That's right.
And I just want you to know that. And yes, we are putting it at risk because we've had over $1 million have been approved for this project already. Now, these funding sources, if this study that you have just made a motion to approve, if this study decides, well, I don't know, we may not go with it. Then you're finally trying to find an answer to something that has already been approved. That's the way I see this. You see, you're dragging your feet, council. I don't think, I have my thoughts as to why you're not approving this. I do.
Well, let's hear them.
I think it is because of where it's located, south of the bridge.
That is on.
I'm giving you my thoughts.
I'm offended by what you just said.
Well,
And I don't appreciate it.
And I'm offended for not holding this thing back. I'm offended for going forward, trying to think of every way to block this project. That's what I'm offended about. And when we have monies, we have everything in place to do it, but you're still dragging your feet about it. So that's offending me. And I would hope the citizens would see it the same way. And all of you have said that you want it done. But you had the opportunity to do it right here tonight. And you still don't want to do it. Why? Why? That's my question. Why?
Why would you spend the money on a commissary kitchen if it's gonna could possibly repurpose for something else? Just to spend the money?
We wanted the town hall to be at the cost on, as a community.
It can't be much more than what we're talking about now.
But that was great. That just doesn't make sense.
Public hearing, is it?
No. This is where we are. And it is my record where we are right here. But I just wanted to make sure that you understand how you're putting this project at risk. Okay. Can I get a motion for adjourn? Can I get a motion for adjourn? Okay.